And welcome to the round 10 episode of Lachie's Weekly Footy Roundup, and this is the first week of Indigenous rounds. As we'll get to do the predictions for the matchup, and also we review round 9 and look at the ladder after round 9. First game of the round was Fremantle versus Collingwood at Optus Stadium. Who said Collingwood don't travel well when they go away to Perth? They had a good win, although Jordan Clark and Luke Ryan played well for the Dockers. And Andrew Brayshaw with 34 disposals, and which was mainly hand passes. Jamie Elliott kicked 6 that game for Collingwood, and Bobby Hill with 3. And Jack Crisp with 2. Fremantle's multiple goal kickers are Patrick Voss and Josh Tracy. And now for the next game, we've got Saints versus Carlton at the MCG. And that is known as the Spud Frawley game. Carlton won by 11 points in this one. Although a few Saints like Sai Wanganeen Malera, Jack Steele and Ryan Marshall played well. But it was Harry Mackay's 3 goals who won it for Carlton, along with Charlie Curnow's 3 goals and 2 from Lewis Young. But Cooper Sharman, Matthias Philippou on his return, and Jack Higgins kicking 2 were the only multiple goal kickers for St Kilda. Melbourne versus Hawthorn at the MCG. Hawthorn got up by 35 points. As the only shining light in this game for Melbourne was Cosy Pickett's 2 goals and 33 headouts from Max Gawn winning the ruck battle. However, James Warple, however, he had a very good game for Hawthorn with 28 disposals and 10 tackles. Next game, we got Essendon and Swans at Marvel Stadium. Well, the Swans nearly snatched a win away from Essendon. But 8 goals 15 would not be enough for Sydney Swans. Their best players were Brodie Grundy with 32 disposals and 23 disposals and 32 hitouts, and Nick Blakey's 22 disposals and 13 marks, but it was a day dominated by Essendon with Nick Martin, Will Setterfield, Andrew McGrath, Jackson Pryor, and the breakout player that I picked for Essendon last year, Zach Reid, finally having his chance to shine. And Mason Redmond's 32 disposals and a goal would be enough to give Essendon victory. Gold Coast versus However, we've got the Garamilla Suns versus the Western Bulldogs in Darwin. As Garamilla, it's the Indigenous name for Darwin. Well, although Gold Coast, they didn't have that much, although it was more of a team effort for them, but the Western Bulldogs played better as a team. They still lost by 10 points. The problem was, kind of was their accuracy. If they had kicked straight, they would have won the match. Next up, we got the showdown at Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide versus Adelaide. What a game that was. Port Adelaide nearly snatched it in the last minute. Although Connor Rozee played a very good game for the Power with 32 disposals and a goal. But it would be Riley O'Brien and Mark Keane saving the Crows in the last minute. And there is bad news for Port fans. Well, Gracie Abrams has chose the Crows. I don't know how you're going to be feeling in the comment section, Port fans. And now for the next game, Richmond and West Coast at the MCG. The Eagles nearly snatched it to get their first win of 2025. Who knows, maybe those players that went to West Coast really were the problem. Oscar Allen pulled out late due to an injury, so did Jaden Short. But the best player on the ground would have to be Jack Graham against his old side. And Liam Baker against his old side for the Eagles. For Richmond, well, it didn't worry Tim Taranto, Toby Nankervis or Sam Banks, as they played very good footy. With Taranto and Nankervis getting a goal, and 2 goals from Seth Campbell would be enough to win it for the Tigers. Same with 2 goals from Tom Lynch and 2 goals from the returning Ryan Massell. Geelong and the Giants at GMHBA Stadium. Oh, man. If only they passed it off to Paddy Dangerfield in the last minutes, Geelong would have won the match. Bailey Smith played very good that game for the Cats, but it would be Jesse Hogan's 7 goals and Tom Green's 37 disposals winning it for GWS. Next up we got a draw in Tassie. North Melbourne and the Brisbane Lions, 71 points apiece. Brisbane's best players were Dane Zorko and Hugh McCluggage, with a combined 66 possessions. Tristan Sherry, however, 19 headouts and 36 headouts and 19 touches. If North Melbourne played better footy, he'd be my lock for all Australian ruckman right now. And Luke Parker played very good footy as well, 23 disposals and a goal. And now we check out the ladder after round 9. Top of the league, we got Brisbane Lions. They're only 2 points ahead of Collingwood. And Hawthorn, as anything could happen. Second, we got Collingwood, 7-2. Hawthorn are currently sitting in third, also playing good footy. Fourth, we got the Gold Coast Suns, 6-2. Fifth on the ladder, we got the Adelaide Crows. Well, they've won the last 2 games and 3 out of the last 4. Sixth, we got the Western Bulldogs. Well, I don't know how they're going to go. I don't know how they're going to cope next week because they're going to get back from Darwin. They might lose that one against Essendon. Seventh is Geelong. Did Bailey Smith really do the right thing by leaving the Dogs? And we'll find out next week. Eighth, we got GWS. They're 5-4 right now. They just got back on the winners list after beating the Cats. Ninth, we got Essendon. They won 4 out of the last 5 games. And it looks like the Butters are starting to get back to playing good footy. This is the most balanced Essendon team I'd seen since back in 2001. 10th, we got Carlton. Well, 4 wins out of the last 5. The Blues are getting their year back on track. 11th, we got Fremantle. Well, them and St Kilda, they're a bit weird in sitting at 11th and 12th. And another team I find really weird this season is Port Adelaide. They're 13th on the ladder. Just after making the prelim last year, 14th, we got Sydney Swans, 3-6. It casts to show, well, the wheels really are starting to fall off in the Swans dynasty. Is Dean Cox really the right man for the job? 15th, we got Melbourne. They're 3-6 right now. Well, if they don't turn their form around soon, well, we could see Simon Goodwin get sacked. 16th, we got Richmond. They're currently sitting at 3-6. And they got another easy game next week against the Kangaroos. 17th, we got North Melbourne. They're 6 points ahead of the last place West Coast Eagles, who are still yet to register a win. Now we go to the predictions for round 10. We got the Garamilla Suns versus the Bunjil Bagora Hawks, which are Indigenous names for Darwin and Hawthorn. And I've got to find the Indigenous name for Gold Coast. Please don't give me any hate in the comment section. And his owners, Ugamba Suns as well. And that's Indigenous for Gold Coast. And this one, I'm going with Gold Coast by, 21 points. Because they kind of play like prime 2007-11 Geelong when they go up to Darwin. Next up, we got, on Friday night, we got the Warrane Swans versus the Wurundjeri Blues, which are Indigenous names for Sydney and Carlton, by the way. I'm going with the Blues in this one by 20 points. Once Indigenous round's over, I can get back to dimensioning the teams in normal. Next up, we got the Yalla Birang Magpies versus the Ghana Crows. I reckon Adelaide might win an upset here by 1 point. We got on Saturday Twilight, we got the Yata Pulti Power with the mentions of Yalla Barang and Ghana. They're Indigenous names for Collingwood and Adelaide. We got the Yata Pulti Power versus the Geelong Cats. And they are Indigenous names for Port Adelaide and Geelong, by the way. I reckon the Cats will get up by 40 points. Next up, we got the Darug Giants versus the Roundup Dockers, which are Indigenous names for GWS and Fremantle. I'm going with GWS in this one by 39 points, and that game is also known as the Cam McCarthy Derby, as we'll be paying tribute to him one year on from his passing. As both GWS and Fremantle's before the game, make sure to pay respects for the McCarthy family. He used to play for both clubs. Now we got the Maribyrnong Bulldogs versus the Tullamarine Bombers. They are Indigenous names for the Western Bulldogs and Essendon. I reckon the Bombers might win. I've got the Bombers getting up in this one by 11 points, because of the Darwin factor that's been happening with the Western Bulldogs. And on Sunday, we got the Keong Tigers versus the Marham Kangaroos, which are Indigenous names for Richmond and North Melbourne, by the way. I'm going with I reckon the Tigers will go back to back for the first time in 2 years. It wins, by the way, and that will be by by 3 points. And on the second game of the round, we got the Meanjin Lions versus the Nairn Demons. Indigenous names for Brisbane and Melbourne, by the way. I reckon the Lions will get up by 80 points. Next, in the last game of the round, we got the Wallich Marawa Eagles versus the Euro Roke Saints. They're Indigenous names for West Coast and St Kilda, by the way. I reckon the Saints will get up in Perth by 31 points. As for the Indigenous jerseys, for the Adelaide Crows, their Indigenous jersey has been assigned by former player Graham Johncock. As the bottom of the jersey actually looked like Adelaide's old home jersey that they wore in the early 2000s. The Brisbane Lions Indigenous jersey that is being designed by Callum Archie, Premiership player for 2024. As it looked like there was not much maroon on that jersey for the home one, and it's a bit more of a blue middle and gold at the bottom. Carlton. Their Indigenous jersey has been designed by Luke and Sienna Thierry. Collingwood's looks like a really good jersey, that one. Collingwood. Their Indigenous jersey has been designed by First Nations artist Lisa Thorpe. it looked like a looked like a lot of looked like a there was a lot of a land jersey, that one. Essendon, their jersey has been designed by Lawson Richards and Lucas Waddleton, who are students at Taylor's Lake Secondary College. Shout out to them on the video. But if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, as they're going to be wearing out for the Dreamtime game against Richmond. Fremantle, their Indigenous jersey has been designed by Jeff Farmer and his family. His father, Jeff Farmer Sr., and his mother, Iris Farmer, and also Jeff Farmer's old teammate, Roger Hayden, will be their hand design to design the jersey as well. Geelong's Indigenous jersey, that's been designed by Lawson Humphreys and his sister, Mesa Humphreys. As it would represent Lawson's journey to the AFL, coming from the West Kimberley area of Western Australia. The Gold Coast Suns, well, they wore their Indigenous jersey last week against Western Bulldogs, which was their Darwin one, and they'll be wearing that again against Hawthorn. They'll wear another one next week against the Saints. GWS's one, it's been designed by Caleb Walters. And that's the jersey where they're going to be sitting as one. Hawthorn's Indigenous jersey has been designed by Indigenous player development manager Jamie Bennell. As it's got their jersey has it looks like more brown in the middle for the one at home, while the away one looks like more gold in the middle. Melbourne's Indigenous jersey, it's been designed by Cosy Pickett's dad, Kevin Pickett. And also his last name's actually Cropanieri. They also got a royal blue version of that jersey, which they'll wear this week against Brisbane. North Melbourne. Their jersey has been designed by Auntie Joy Murphy. And former AFLW player Emma Bamblett, who might have been related to Laz, who used to play for Melbourne. Port Adelaide's Indigenous jersey, it's been designed by the one and only Gavin Wanganeen, Port Adelaide's 2004 Premiership legend. They'll wear a home version against Geelong and an away version against the Dockers. Richmond's Indigenous jersey, it's been designed by Ryan Mansell, his father Brett Mansell and his grandfather Clyde Mansell. As it's going to be mainly an all yellow jersey. St Kilda's one has been designed by Nasiah Wanganeen Malera, which is about his upbringing and his football journey throughout South Australia. The Sydney Swans jersey has been designed by Jordan Adler. There you go. I really need to. Some parts of me really does need to improve my knowledge about these names.
It's alright.
Got it. West Coast Eagles Indigenous jersey. It's been designed by Wangoofa man Kevin Wilson, and it's also been designed by Taryn Woods. It would symbol the First Nations players who have been playing for the West Coast Eagles. The Western Bulldogs wore theirs last week against the Gold Coast Suns, and their jersey has been designed by Camelia Loana White, an Indigenous artist. And it's got 100 dots on that one, symboling 100 years in the AFL. And that will wrap up this episode, and then there will be another video coming soon where we get to reveal the remaining fixture from round 16 to 23.